Okay, this is the 5-minute tarot for the 27th of January 2017. And in this one, we're going to do a kind of overview of the past, present, future spread that we've looked at in the last 3 or 4 days. And I'd like to make a point at the beginning that I think it's a good idea to, with a past, present, and future spread, turn one card and do as much as you can with it before turning the second card. And do as much as you can with it, then turn the third card. Because I think if you begin with all the cards face up, you're not going to get as much out of it, because you're going to start at the end instead of starting at the beginning and unfolding or revealing what's contained in the picture. Whereas if you see everything all at once, it's much more difficult, I think, to make sense of the spread. So this is going to be an overview, or okay, when you've spoken a bit about the past, the present, and the future, then you can do an overview or give a summary of the reading. And I think rule number one has to be, you don't want to be a fortune teller, right? So you don't turn the card and say, okay, you got this friend called Mary, and a couple of months ago she told you that she's moving to a new city because she got a promotion, right? So let's say that's true. It can be quite impressive that the psychic told you this, and it was basically true. But the problem thing is, you already know that Mary told you this 2 months ago and she's going to a new city. So it's not much use to you with your current situation to know about Mary and the conversation 2 months ago. It also doesn't follow that just because the psychic knows what you know about Mary, it doesn't follow that the psychic's statements about your future will also be accurate. So I'm saying don't be a psychic, because that kind of approach isn't a reading, right? Because reading means to read, I think. So if you show me a newspaper and say, what's here, I would read the headlines, read the story. I wouldn't start telling you about stuff that's actually not contained in the newspaper. Whereas we're using a deck with pictures and colours and so on. I think we should make sense of it. And the second point is, excuse me, if you have 2 books in one hand and 2 books in the other, you know you've got 4 books, right? So if you then have 2 eggs in one hand and 2 eggs in the other, you don't have to begin all over again and figure out, okay, I need some new way of coming up to get an answer of 4 to figure out how many eggs I've got. It's like you know the principle. You know how to add. You know the principle. 2 plus 2 is 4. And you can add 2 and 2 of anything to get 4 things. So you can add 2 sheets of paper with 2 sheets of paper and get 4 sheets of paper. Or you can add 2 elephants and 2 elephants and get 4 elephants, even though 4 elephants is an awful lot bigger and heavier than 4 sheets of paper. It doesn't matter. You know the principle. So with this in mind, I think we want to show the questioner the principle or the idea behind each card. Right? We can be impersonal. We don't have to be personal about this. So we don't have to know the reader doesn't have to know the details. If you can give the person an idea of what's going on in the card, you don't need to give them details as well. Give them specific information too. So when we see that 7 of Pentacles, we can talk about the questioner's thinking, or taking too much or too little time to think, but we don't have to know what she was thinking about. We don't need to know what her actual thoughts were, right? So we're talking about 2 plus 2 is 4. So we're talking about thinking actually not quite for the correct amount of time, because the card is reversed. So the question can understand that her thinking wasn't quite right. So maybe in one area, she thought well, or she knows from her own experience that in this particular area she gets things right. In this area, maybe I could be a little bit more patient. Whereas in this area, I've really got to get myself together and think things through. Right? She's going to know, or he's going to know the details, but what you're doing is you're giving them an idea that there is maybe a need for more thinking or more in some area, but you're not telling them what area, leaving it up to them. So we give the person from the Seven of Pentacles reversed, we give them the idea of thinking and not acting, or thinking before acting. And that experience, it may be a fault or a tendency that she's aware of. So we're getting her to fix it, or to recognize her tendency so she can control it in the future and not just repeat the past. Coins also represents values. And because it's reversed, it's a good idea for her to become clear about what she values and what she cares about. And that's a general point that she can take away with her and consider at her leisure. So the present position is the page. It's a page of batons, and this is a good card. I'm saying it's a good card only because it doesn't show bad stuff, right? Because some of the cards show pain and sorrow and difficulty, but this page of batons doesn't. Because we see the person looking off into the distance. So this page of batons is a card of thinking too, just like the Seven of Coins. Right, so this page is upright, whereas the Seven of Coins earlier was upside down. So any thinking she does about her values is going to produce clarity. And because the page is looking into the distance, she needs to focus on strategy, which is a long-term situation, long-term goal, and not tactics, which is dealing with everyday situations. The everyday situations will take care of themselves when she chooses the direction she wants to go in, which is her long-term goal, let's say. And because a page is a young person, we can say that this page of batons represents, okay, we've got the Seven of Pentacles reversed in the past, which is not thinking correctly or clearly. So now we've got this page of batons represents step one. Or maybe, I want to say, maybe it represents version 1.0. And it's an improvement over the reverse Seven of Coins in the past. So we can assure her that her present position will become more comfortable. Because we go from reverse to upright. So things are going to get better. The present isn't just right this second. It's the next period of time. Okay, so we've got the page of batons now, but the card for the future is a page as well. So it's a bit like the present is version 1.0, and it's going to be followed by a version 1.1 and not version 2 or version 3, right? So you get an idea that you've got what's going on now is going to develop and it's going to turn into something, but you're still in the early stages. So you're going from version 1.0 to version 1.1. Later, you go to version 2, and the person can understand what kind of situation she's in. So now she has the idea that she's making a new start, but it isn't going to result immediately in everything being fixed and settled and successful. She can end up there, but it's going to take more than one step. Sometimes you find that everything is almost in place and it just takes one small change and you have great success. But this isn't the question of situation. It's not like that. But it can become successful if she takes the long view, the long-term view, the Page of Batons, and gets organized, represented by the Page of Swords. So that's a kind of summary of this past, present, and future spread. And it took more than 5 minutes, I think, anyway. So tomorrow I may go back to picking a card at random, or I will go back to picking a card at random. But if you have anything you want to ask or to get a quick answer on, let me know in a comment or via an email. That was it. I'm rushing, trying to keep into the short videos. Okay, So see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.